Man, finally, Sleep has been released on VOD, and man, I've been like waiting for like a year for this movie to come out. And was it worth the wait? Absolutely. This film is awesome. This film is awesome. It is a good thriller. It's a good horror film. It takes twists and turns. It's psychological. It has like everything you'd want from a horror thriller, and it's phenomenal. But hey, don't take my word for it. Take the word of Bong Joon-ho, the director of Parasite. He said this is the smartest debut film he's seen in 10 years. So yeah, Sleep is about a pregnant wife whose husband starts to wake up in the middle of the night and sleepwalk and do some really weird, creepy shit. And they don't quite know how to handle it, so they do the best they can to kind of work with the situation that they're put in. And ultimately things get crazier and crazier to the point where it's like, is he the crazy one? Or is she? So yeah, one of the cool things about this movie is how simple and effective this concept is. It's like, I've never known anyone who's been a sleepwalker. I've never been in a relationship with someone who sleepwalks. But as you watch the film, you start to like feel for the protagonist. You're like, how do you handle this? How do you deal with when someone's sleepwalking and maybe harming themselves or harming you or harming those around you? Like, how do you deal with that? Not just you as an individual trying to care for the one who's sleepwalking, but you as a couple. Like, that is explored in this movie, and I think it's done in a very interesting way. And they do the best they can. They work together. They want to solve this together, and they try and like safe-proof the house, but it doesn't work. I don't know. And their relationship starts to deteriorate and deteriorate. It's just like, I don't know, it's just a very interesting concept, but yet so simple. And it gets even more interesting when the stakes get higher. In the beginning of the movie, when he starts to sleepwalk, you know, she is pregnant. The wife is pregnant, but at some point halfway through the movie, she gives birth. So now it's not only a safety of her and him, it's now a safety of the baby. Now she's being protective of the baby. And just like how that switches and escalates is such a clever idea. And you feel for her in those moments. Like in the beginning when she's pregnant, you're like, yeah, okay, there's some creepy things going on and you guys can try and figure it out. But the moment the baby is introduced, you feel for her. You put yourself in her shoes where you're like, oh my God, is he going to do something to the baby? What's going to happen to the baby? Like, oh my God. I don't know. It was just such a clever escalation of this idea. And what's so cool is not only are the stakes raised as the movie goes along, but actually the story kind of pivots about halfway through, because like in the beginning, the first half of the movie, it's very much like sleepwalking. How do we deal with sleepwalking? But then halfway through the movie, the mother of the wife, you know, brings over a paranormal expert, and then the movie kind of, you know, poses the question of like, maybe it's not sleepwalking. Maybe there's something more going on. And I was like, oh, great. And we just opened a whole can of worms with this one, didn't we? And then the movie gets to its climax, and my God, there's no spoilers in this review. I'm not going to spoil what happens, but man, this movie is fantastic from start to finish. But man, this climax, the last 10 to 15 minutes of this movie is so engaging and engrossing and thrilling. You're just like, oh my God. It all leads to this conversation, this dialogue between the husband and the wife, and you're just like, holy shit, we are in psycho territory. Like, this is fantastic. And that's the genius of this movie. The biggest genius of this movie is that, you know, there are things thrown at the audience, thrown at the main character, and, you know, the wife is our surrogate here. And it's like, she believes the information that is given to her, and it's like, we as an audience have to think like, okay, are we believing what she is believing, or are we not? And the movie like really brings that home in the end of the film, where you're like, okay, is this woman off her fucking rocker, or is she onto something? And this is kind of one of those endings that I think will be talked about, you know, on the internet, of like, did this happen? Did that happen? To me personally, I think the movie makes it pretty clear what's happening. I'm not going to spoil anything here, but I think the movie makes it pretty clear what's happening. And at the end of the day, I think that no matter where you land on whether or not this is happening or that is happening, it kind of doesn't matter, because what matters is that the main character, you know, has to go through what she has to go through, and that's the most important part. But you know, as a reviewer, I can't sit here and say like, oh, it doesn't matter, you know. So I have to pick a side, and without spoiling too much, like I said, I think the movie makes it pretty clear what's happening. So I hope that for those of you who've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I do think this ending will be talked about. It will be dissected. There may be some conflicting views on the ending, and I love that. I love movies where, you can talk to your friends or your family or people on the internet and being like, no, this happened, no, it's this way, and this is how it went down. I love that kind of stuff, and this is one of those movies. My only real complaint with this movie is that, you know, later on in the movie there's a time jump, and the characters are in kind of a different situation than they were like the scene right before the time jump. And I was like, I don't think we necessarily needed that time jump. Like, we still could have got to that climax without the time jump. And also, like, it's never really explained where a certain character, how they got there. I mean, you can kind of piece it together, don't get me wrong, but it would have been nice to just see a scene where, you know, to describe why this person is where they are. But again, I think that that time jump wasn't really necessary. We still could have got to that climax, we know, without a time jump. But that's a really, really small nitpicky thing. I was just like, oh, time jumps are kind of jarring just in general. Overall, guys, I thought this movie was fantastic. It is a must watch. It is one of the best horror thrillers of the year. It is so smart. It is clever. It is engaging. It is engrossing. It is, you know, just from the moment it starts to the moment it ends, it is just pure entertainment. There is no padding here. This movie is an hour and a half long. In fact, the movie opens with the first sleepwalking scene. Like, there's just beat after beat after beat, just pure popcorn entertainment. I thought this movie was phenomenal. So yeah, I highly recommend this one. Please check this one out. Like I said, it's one of the best horror thrillers of the year. Did you see Sleep? Have you seen Sleep? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know your thoughts on the ending without spoilers. Try not to spoil the ending in the comments here. We don't want to ruin it for anybody. But let me know what you thought of the movie. And till the next time, I will see you on the next one.